Welcome to the Ben Wood Johnson podcast. You can visit Dr. Johnson's blog at benwoodpost.com. Dr. Johnson's works can be found at drbenwoodjohnson.com. You can also support Dr. Johnson on Patreon, the link to which is in the description. Hello. Welcome back to the Ben Wood Johnson podcast. Welcome to another episode. Today is October the 2nd, 2023. This is podcast number 77. Once again, I am thrilled to be here with you. I am happy to have the opportunity to talk to you, to talk about philosophy, to talk about what matters in life. Today we're going to have an interesting podcast. This season, as I've said before, is dedicated to me, but today we're going to talk about hate in general. The conversation is going to be based on how hate or hatred is something that is somewhat inherent in who we are. But that doesn't mean we should let it control our lives. That doesn't mean we should let it be our identity. We can do better than hate. We can do better than festering, consuming, nurturing hatred in our hearts for others. It is important to understand that, the essence of living in a society, the essence of life itself is to embrace others, is to recognize that others have a right to be, they have a right to exist, and we shall do everything in our power to make life livable for others, to treat others with respect and dignity. Sometimes we overlook the pain, the sorrow that we cause in others' lives, and in this podcast, I want to remind you the importance of understanding, the importance of empathy, the importance of sort of creating a possibility, creating an atmosphere where everybody can feel comfortable living this God-given life, this beautiful, precious life that they've been given. So it is important. So without further ado, let us delve right into it. Here's a question. Hate. Why people hate? Now, in the past, I have talked about hate, from a philosophical standpoint. I have talked about, why people hate. And I think in one of my podcasts, one of my episodes, I've talked about, I've referenced this 80s song that talks about why a man hates another. But let's look at this concept a little more in depth, right? So when we're talking about hate, the question remains, why people hate? What incites a person to hate another? What are the foundation, the fundamentals of hatred in a person? Now, it is important to understand that hate is a complex emotion. It's a complex human emotion. It is not clear whether other living entities hate, although sometimes they behave in a way that suggests something similar. But the reality is that hate, at least from our understanding, is a complex human emotion. And it can come from different causes. It emanates from a variety of reasons. But some of the most common understandings as to why people hate include, for example, fear, jealousy. Sometimes hate may be motivated because of prejudice and discrimination, anger, group mentality. So those are somewhat the most common explanations for hate. And of course, people may have different reasons. They may have more than one of these reasons. For example, somebody may be afraid, but that person may also be jealous. So you may have both fear, jealousy, or fear, jealousy, and prejudice. You may also have all five as the reasons that motivate you to hate somebody. But in general, when we're talking about fear, what we're talking about here is that people hate things that they do not understand, or things that they may perceive as a threat. And that perception, or that lack of understanding, if you want ignorance, may be manifested as fear. So in other words, people hate because they're afraid, right? Having a fear of something you do not understand, you do not comprehend. It may be the fear of a person that may seem different, that may seem unorthodox to the extent that that person is different from the people you are used to. That could create a sense of fear, which could be manifested as a fear or as hatred. So you may have this feeling of hatred towards these individuals, or it may not be towards people. It might be a fear that you've expressed towards ideas or situations, places that you don't understand or you don't comprehend. So that reality causes fear, and that fear in turn leads to hate. Another reason people hate is jealousy. Now, this reason is as old as can be, because humanity, we were designed at least human beings were designed to be self-absorbed, to be self-aware, okay? And that self-absorption or that self-awareness is usually a catalyst for jealousy. Because once you become aware of yourself, once you become aware of others, that may make you feel either less than or more than the other. So this could lead to jealousy, and that jealousy may manifest itself in the form of hate. But the origins of that jealousy could be understood as the fact that you may look at the self and look at the other, and all of a sudden you realize there's a little bit of appetency, or a little bit of inferiority or inability. Okay? So if you desire something that others have, you cannot achieve that. That may be translated in the form of hate. For example, if you want success, if you want wealth, or if you're looking for relationships and you're not able to achieve those, that could motivate the person to exhibit instances of hatred towards whoever that person perceives as achieving those desired qualities or desired items. So another reason people hate is prejudice and discrimination. Now, again, this is, I'm not sure if this in and of itself is a reason for hate. If not, it is always coupled with other reasons. For example, jealousy or fear of the unknown. So when you see somebody, you're sort of afraid of what they have, you're afraid of what they have to offer, or you don't know them, you cannot figure them out, or they look different, they're the other, as they say, that may motivate you to feel a sense of prejudice towards them. For example, many people are afraid of certain groups of individuals, whether they're people of color or people that are from a different country. That fear, or at least that inability to understand or to achieve the same level of achievement as the other, may lead to feelings of hate. So the hate can be based on factors such as race, maybe gender, sexual orientation, or religion. right? So you see somebody who is a different race or different color, skin color, and you don't understand that person's reality. So that may lead to prejudice, which is manifested as hate. Or you see that person's gender, maybe you don't like a particular group of people because you don't like their gender, or let's say you don't like women, or you have a somewhat aversion for male, or you have an aversion for those who identify as neither groups. So that could manifest itself as prejudice and discrimination towards this group. Or sexual orientation, for example, people have a tendency to belittle those who have a sexual orientation that is not compatible with their understanding. For example, you see people who don't like gay, or don't like people that have some sort of that are gay or lesbians and somewhat. So this could be manifested in the form of prejudice and discrimination, which in turn could lead to hate, right? So the other reason people hate is anger. So again, I'm not sure if anger in and of itself could manifest itself as hate rather than it is a part of something else. For example, fear, jealousy, that could lead to anger, right? This sense of inability to achieve could lead to anger. Nonetheless, the concept of anger explains why people feel hate towards others, because you may feel frustrated. You may feel that there's a sense of, inability to do certain things, to achieve certain things, which brings frustration in the individual, which in turn can be manifested in the form of hate, right? Or let us say somebody who has been wrong, right? You have been wronged by a society, you have been mistreated by a society or by others. So that can create a sense of anger in you, which in turn could be manifested as hate. And that hatred can be virulent. It can lead to all sorts of savagery, including violence against the self or others. And the last reason people hate, it's the idea of group mentality, right? Now, the concept of group mentality exemplifies this notion that when you live in a society where there are certain behaviors or certain way of life that are allowed, that are permitted, that could in turn create a perfect atmosphere for hatred to fester. For example, if you live in a society where they don't like immigrants, or they have a certain aversion for people of color, or for people with a particular sexual orientation, or with a particular gender identity, right? So that could in turn lead to a group mentality where as a group, we tend to see the other in this way, and that motivates our hatred for the other, right? So the same is true for religion, right? If you have a group mentality towards a particular religion, you're likely to see these group of people in such a way. For example, during 9/11, at least the era of 9/11, there was enough aversion towards the Muslim faith, and people who were Muslims were suddenly seen in a particular way, but by people that are within a particular social spectrum. So these groups tend to see Muslims as potential people that could harm their society. But it was all a group mentality. It was a group think, and the government at the time promoted that idea. It's like this idea that they don't like us, this idea that they hate our way of life. We have to go get them before they get us. I remember back in the days, these kinds of rhetoric was so prevalent in America, in the American media as well. So that sort of exacerbated this group mentality where people thought that somehow they were better than the other, and that justified whatever hatred they felt towards the other. So this group mentality can foster a sense of group identity, like we are and the others are, and because we are, that justifies whatever it is that we might do to the other, right? So So individuals feel like they have a certain loyalty to this group. For example, there was a time when it was this idea that we are Americans. We are better than the others, and as Americans, we have to go get them. We have to do this for them. And I remember, as an immigrant, I was sort of appalled by that. And I remember one time, one person made a comment on the radio back in New York, back in early 2000. People in New York used to put flags, in their cars that sort of reflected their cultural identity, their country of origins. And somebody on the radio made that comment. It was a radio commentator. It wasn't just a regular person who said that. Some radio commentator who said flat out that they shouldn't allow people to have different flags in their car. It was this idea that this is America. So if you're going to have a flag in your car, it should be the American flag. And as I listened to this dude talking, I was like, really? But many people sort of felt that way. And, people looked at you funny when you had, of course, at the time, I wasn't really paying much attention to how people reacted. So when they saw somebody with a flag in their car, but I could hear in conversations people talking about why are these people walking around with the flag of Barbados, the flag of Dominican Republic, the flag of, Puerto Rico and whatnot in their car when they are in America. And it became a group thing. It became a way of a group mentality where if you are in America, you are supposed to act like Americans. You're supposed to embrace American values and sort of relinquish whoever it is that you are or have been for however many years of your life. So it became this mentality, and anyone who did not follow this trend was somewhat treated with suspicion, with hostility, right? But it was all a group thing, and that's all the foundation of this anti-Muslim I referenced earlier was. Like, there was a certain group of individuals who felt like they were entitled to go after certain people simply for the fact that these individuals had something that they didn't have, or had a different way of being that was not compatible with whoever it is that they thought that they were, right? But hate in and of itself is a destructive emotion. It is a destructive emotion to the extent that nothing good can come out of hate. When you hate somebody, you're not making it easy for them. You're not making it easy for yourself, because that hate is not only affecting the other in a negative way, but it is also consuming you. You know what I mean? So you need to be careful how you treat others, because when people experience hate, they're likely to sort of turn around and hate others. Sometimes they hate themselves and they hate others, which in turn could lead to violence and all sorts of, negative consequences. So it is never a good thing, a good idea to exhibit or to nourish or to nurture feelings of hate in your heart for others, right? So it is important to sort of have empathy, to sort of have a sense of understanding, compassion for the other. And it is important to do so even in difficult situations. It is important to treat the other with respect and dignity, no matter how you think about the other, no matter how you feel about the other. Because at the end of the day, we live in a society where our destiny is somewhat intertwined. And because of that interconnection, we are condemned to live with each other. We are condemned to be amongst other people. And, if you are going through a tough time in your life where you happen to feel resentment, whether it is based on fear, based on prejudice, it is based on anger, or it is because of jealousy, or group mentality, you have to step outside of that bubble and try to see the other for what the other is, and treat the other with respect, treat the other with dignity, and not allow hatred to become a part of your existence, because nothing good, like I said, nothing great can come out of hate, or can come out of nurturing feelings of hate, or disdain for the other. So it is important that you understand where you are on the spectrum of things, and you keep yourself balanced, and you don't allow yourself to drift into this world of self-destruction. Like I said, hate is a destructive feeling. It is a destructive emotion. It not only destructs the other, but it also destructs whoever nurtures it, whoever carries it. So there's nothing good that can come out of it. So it is important to stay away from it and instead nurture empathy, nurture understanding, nurture compassion, nurture love for the other. It is important because this is what's going to shape the destiny of our species, the destiny of humanity as a whole.